Today we're going to start working with linear equations, and we're going to actually start working with the equations themselves. And so if I see an equation like 3x plus 2y equals 8, that is what we call, that's one form or one example of a linear equation. If it has an x and a y, both to the first power, all right, in the equation, it's what we call a linear equation, all right? And so this relates to, like I said, a line. That equation, when I graph it, will always give me the graph of a straight line, okay? So I want to start with a note here. Note. The solution of a linear equation is just a point that makes the equation true. All right, the solution of a linear equation is just a point. And when I say a point, I mean an x and a y coordinate. We call that an ordered pair. All right? So one of the first things you're going to be asked to do in homework is to tell whether the ordered pair is a solution. Remember, an ordered pair is just the name of a point. Okay? So they're going to give you an equation like 3x minus y equals 7. And they're going to put a semicolon like that. And they're going to give you a point, an ordered pair, like 1, -4. Okay, that 1, -4 is an ordered pair. The first number, what's the first number? Is it an x or a y? The first number is an x. The second number is a y. Okay? It's what we call an ordered pair because it's a pair of numbers and it's always in order with an x first and a y second. All right? This is very simple. We're wanting to know if this point is on this line. So all I have to do is plug it in. All I have to do is take this 1 and plug it in for x, and take this -4 and plug it in for y, and see if it gives me a true statement. So let's do that. I'm going to replace this x with a 1. 3 times 1 minus the y value. The y value was -4, so I am subtracting -4. And I want to know, does that equal 7? So, does that point make the statement, make the equation true? Yeah. What's 3 times 1? Isn't it 3? Yeah. Isn't this snake eyes? Becomes +4. Is 3 plus 4 equal to 7? Yes, it is. So the answer to this problem is that yes, it is a solution. Okay? Now, what does that mean graphically? That means if I were to graph this line, I know how to graph it pretty quick. You're going to learn a quicker way before too long. If I were to graph the line, I know that this point right here, this 1, -4, which is right there, I know that that point is on the line. Okay? That's what that means. When it says that it is a solution of the equation, it means that it is a point on the actual line. If it's not a solution, it's not going to be on the line. It's going to be, I'll pick a different color here, it's going to be, I don't know, over here somewhere. This one is not a solution. Okay, this point right there. That one's not a solution because it's not on the line. If it's a solution, it's on the line. All right? So let me give you one to try. I'll pause the video and you try this one on your own. Let's say the equation is -x plus 2y equals 8. And the point that we're checking is -2, 5. I'll pause the video. You see if that is a solution. All right, let's see how you did. This -2 gets plugged in for x. So the opposite of -2, that's how that works, plus 2 times whatever y is, which is 5. Okay, so I plug this 5 in for y. And I want to know, does that equal 8? So the opposite of -2 is +2. 2 plus 10 is 12. That does not equal 8. So no, this one is not a solution. This would be the case if I were to graph this one, all right? I'm just going to draw a quick sketch of what this line looks like. You'll learn how to do it later. Okay, here's the point, -2, 5. There's the point. It's not on the line. Okay? So this is an example of it not being a solution. All right? If it's not a solution, it won't be a point on the line. Now, one of the big things we're going to do today, this is the last problem we're going to do, but this problem takes us a few minutes, is you're going to be asked to graph by making a table. And they're going to give you an equation like 4y plus 2x equals 16. And they want you to graph this by making a table. Well, before I can even start making the table or plugging in points, what we need to do is solve for y first. Put that in your notes. We need to solve this equation for y using algebra steps. We know how to do this. What's going to happen is it's still going to be an equation, but it's going to be in a little bit different form. It's going to look a little differently. So we are trying to get y by itself. So if you remember, I told you that when we're trying to solve for y, we want to get it by itself. We want to move everything else over to the other side. So doesn't it make sense that we need to move this 2x over there? And let's use an algebra step. What's the opposite of adding 2x? So let's subtract 2x. And so these 2x's go away. And now I just have a 4y on this side, and I have a -2x plus 16. That's how we write that. That's a positive 16, so we join it with the plus sign. Now if I'm going to solve this for y, I need the y by itself. I have one more step. I need to divide both sides by 4. So this side I divide by 4. The other side, watch carefully, I need to divide both of these terms by 4, like that. So now the 4's cancel, and I have y equals, this negative 2/4 becomes negative 1/2 x plus 16 over 4 is 4. So we've now accomplished what we set out to do, which was to get y by itself. It's still the same equation, but now the y is by itself. So we're ready to start making a table, okay, and calculating our points. Now, when we make a table, this is important, you get to pick the x values. All right? I'd like for you to pick 4 of them. Now, if I were you, I would use smaller numbers that are easier to calculate with. I'm going to use, and I would like for you to use at least one negative, so I'm going to use negative 2. I think it's smart to use 0 because 0 is really easy to work with in math. And I'm just going to use positive 2 and positive 4. Like I said, you get to pick out those 4 x numbers. Now, this is where we're going to use our equation. Okay? We're going to use this. All we're going to do now is we are going to plug each of these numbers in to that equation. I'm going to plug this number in for x so I can find out what the y is. So, the first one I'm going to plug in is negative 2. So I'm going to do the work right here beside it. Y is going to equal negative 1/2 times negative 2 plus 4. Now, anytime I multiply a fraction times a whole number, I put it over 1. And then the 2's are going to factor. And it's just going to be 1. But it's going to be a positive 1. So this is 1 plus 4. My y coordinate for this first point is 5. Okay. Now we need to plug in the 0. So we're going to plug the 0 in for the x. So y equals, I'm using this same equation right here. Y equals negative 1/2 times 0 plus 4. Well, I like using 0 because what's 0 times anything? 0. So this is going to be 0 plus 4, which is just 4. That's why I would always recommend using 0 as one of your x coordinates. Now we're going to use the 2. Okay? So we're going to put the 2 in. Y equals negative 1/2 times positive 2 plus 4. So I put that 2 over 1. I factor again. But this time it's going to be negative 1 plus 4. So that one's going to be 3. I have one more x value to plug in, the 4. So y equals negative 1/2 times 4 over 1 plus 4. Do my factoring this time. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 4 divided by 2 is 2. Negative 2 plus 4 is 2. And the hard part is done because we're supposed to be graphing this thing. Well, the graph is the easy part because now what I have is I have 4 ordered pairs here that I just need to plot on a graph. Let's do that real quick. Make yourself a table. Make yourself a graph. I'm going to give you graph paper tonight that you can use. And we have 4 points to plot. So when we look at our table, the first point was what? Negative 2, 5. So here's negative 2. Here's 5. So that point is right here. There's the point, -2, 5. What was my next point? 0, 0, 4. So here's 0, up 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then the next point was 2, 3. So I'm going to plot 2, 1, 2, 3. There's the point 2, 3. And the last one was at 4, 2. So here's 4, and here's the point 4, 2. And if you do this correctly, when you connect the dots, it should be a straight line. Okay? Now, you were told to graph that one by making a table, and there's a lot of steps involved in that one, but they're not always hard. Let me show you two that are really easy, and this will finish it up. And that is a vertical line. If you see an equation that only has an x and doesn't have a y, like x equals 7. If that is your linear equation, x equals 7, you automatically know it's a vertical line through 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's a vertical line through 7. You don't have to make a table. You don't have to solve it for anything. You can just draw the vertical line through 7. All right? That makes it easy. For a horizontal line, you will just have a y. Very good. If you see y equals 7 and there's no x, just y equals a number, then you know that's going to be a horizontal line through 7. Okay? So if you see those problems, you're pretty happy because you don't have to make a table, you don't have to solve it for anything, you can just sketch the graph. And we're going to stop there for today.